Hi guys, this is Miss Fernandez. This is your introduction to Flash. This will be your first tutorial with me. So once you open up Flash, the first thing you're going to want to do is click on ActionScript 3.0. Once you click on that, you're going to notice at the top of your layout, as long as you're in classic mode, which is what we want to pick, that you have your layers panel, also known as your timeline. On the left hand side you'll see your toolbar, and most of these are quite familiar to you because it would be quite similar to Illustrator. On the bottom you're going to find your stage, so this is where all the action that you will draw will take place and will have effect. On the right hand side you will have a properties layer and a library, so when you create objects and you assemble them, they will appear here. Under properties, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is click on size, and you're going to change that to 512 by 288 and hit enter. And if you look at your stage, you'll notice that it is now widescreen, also known as 16 by 9, which is what we want. So in the layers panel up here, just like in Illustrator, you can add layers, and in Flash it's really important to have multiple layers because you can't get things to move if they're all on the same layer. So the first thing you're going to do is double click on layer 1, and you're going to call it background. And now I'm going to click on the rectangle tool, and I'm going to select a color, so we'll just do some kind of blue. And this is my background color. I can adjust it. As you can see, I've got a little bit of white there by using my free transform tool. I can now stretch it a little bit further up to cover the entire stage. Now I've only got one frame of this. That means that it's one drawing. And remember, in Flash you need 24 frames or 24 drawings to equal 1 second. So I actually want you to extend your background, let's say to 60 frames. So if you click on it, you highlight it, now you right click, or you can control click with your mouse, and you're going to insert a frame. And notice how your timeline is now populated by the same image over and over again. Okay, it's always the background. I'm going to add a new layer, so I'm going to lock this one first because I'm happy with it. I'm going to add a new layer right here, and I'm going to call this ball. And make sure your timeline that you're selected on frame 1. That's the most important part. Now clicking on your rectangle tool, click and hold, you'll find your oval tool. Select a different color, and you can now create a shape. So this will be my ball. I'm going to select it using the selection tool, and I'm going to symbol it. So that means that I'm asking the computer to keep the outline plus the fill of the object all as one component. To do that, I can right click or control click on it, and towards the bottom you'll see convert to symbol. And here I can name it, so I'm just going to name it because it's really good to be organized that way. Notice that you now have a light blue outline around your object and a center dot. So first thing you want to do is we're going to have this ball bounce in and out of the frame. So it's going to go down, up, and then be gone. Okay, over 60 frames. So we're going to start it around here. And I'm going to right click on the timeline where it says ball, and I'm going to create a motion tween. Now I'm going to place the timeline around here, and I'm going to grab the object and bring it down. Notice how it's automatically making a pathway. So these are all the frames that the computer has figured out you need to place in order to move your object from frame 1 to frame 14. Now I'm going to move down my timeline a little bit further, bring the ball up, a little bit further, bring it down again, and a little bit further and bring it up. I'll actually make it move and be out of the frame at this point. Now if I go back to frame 1 and I hit enter on my keyboard, I've made an animated object. But if I play it again, look closely, it doesn't seem to be bouncing really. It just seems to be an object that moves in different places, but doesn't really show any definition to the bounce. The best way to modify that is to click on the frame right after the ball bounces on the timeline. Right click, so control click on frame 15, and we're going to insert a keyframe, and we want to scale the object. So if I grab the object, I'm just going to pull it down a little bit and flatten it just a little bit, just like that. And because I've changed it, I now have to insert a new keyframe. And I'm also going to scale it back to the size approximately that it was before. So if we play that, let's see if it looks like it's more of a bounce. Yes, okay, so if you notice that the movement around here, it does resemble more of a bounce, okay? Now, you'd have to do the same thing for each time the ball reaches a point, okay? So you'd have to insert a keyframe to scale, and I'm going to squash it a little bit, move it up to the end, and then you have to insert another keyframe, scale, and bring it back to the size it was approximately. And when it moves quickly, it does look like it's actually bouncing. And again, you'd have to repeat it at frame 36 and again at frame 50. Alright, so I'm going to let you guys work on that. In the meantime, I'm going to lock this layer because there's a few more things I want you to do. One of them is create another layer. We're going to double click on it and we're going to call it Cloud. So on this layer, on the first keyframe, I'm going to use my paintbrush. I'm going to change the color to white. And off the page, you can adjust what size you want your pen or your brush to be. I'm just going to make a cloud, and I'll use my paintbrush to fill it in. Now again, I want this object to move, so I have to symbol it. So I'm selecting it entirely, and I'm going to convert it to a symbol, name it what it is, and save it. I'm just going to show you very quickly. If you click on Library, you now see that we have a ball, and if the cloud wasn't completely white, you'd see the cloud as well. Alright, so I want the cloud to actually start on the far side here. First I need to click in the gray area of the timeline. So I'm going to right click and create a motion tween. Notice how the entire line has now turned blue. So on keyframe 1, it will start here, and on keyframe 60, it's going to move all the way across the screen. Okay? So if I go back to frame 1, hit enter on my keyboard, I now have a bouncing ball and a cloud that moves across the sky. Okay? Using this concept, I would like you to add 2 additional layers. Be as creative as you want. You can add a bird flying, or another cloud, or perhaps a sun rotating in the background. It's entirely up to you. So have fun and stay on task.